everyone. Welcome back to the Warm Up Podcast. Today I am here for a really exciting conversation with Meghan from Mushroom Packaging. So, Mushroom Packaging is a company that was created to combat styrofoam waste, and it's created a new compostable packaging material by growing mycelium together with agricultural matter. So the matter is 100% home and marine compostable at the end of its use. And this is taking on by leaps and bounds. It is such a cool product. I actually was ordering something from a company that I really love, and it started to come in mushroom packaging. So I had to go seek them out, and I said, we must talk. I have to talk to you. So Meghan, I am so thrilled to have you here, and I would love to just have a brief introduction from you to tell me a little bit about yourself and how long you've been working there and anything else you would like us to know.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Bree, thanks so much for spending time with me today. I'm really glad to have a conversation with you. I'm Meghan Olson. I lead mushroom packaging for Ecovative, specifically focused on our North American clients and growing business in North America, as well as our licensees growing globally around the world. We have a number of different licensee levels. We also have grow-it-yourself materials. So lots of ways to get our material into the hands of a wide variety of people. But I'm really focused on working hard to make mushroom packaging a household name.
Yes, it's making biodegradable materials cool, and I love that. Whenever I found it, I've been using it. It's recommended that once you get your packaging that you can break it down and like use it as plant food and all of this. So I've been doing that, and it's really fun to just watch it work and see how it's progressing over time. So I've been in a kind of like pro mushroom obsession phase at this time. So this is a perfect timed conversation for me. I just finished reading Entangled Life, and I feel like I've just been so in tune now with everything happening kind of beneath my feet and like what's going on and how we can use mushrooms and mycelium as a solution to so many things. And I feel like a lot of people don't even realize what it can get used for, how we can be, using mushrooms and mycelium as solutions for issues that we're having with environmental problems. Like there's just so many things happening, and they're just like these small little superpowers. So super thrilled to be able to talk to you about them and to talk about the history of mushroom packaging, where it's going, what products you're creating, what projects you're working on, all of the above. So I wanted to start off by just having you tell the audience what mycelium is.
Absolutely. So mycelium is the root structure of mushrooms, and we leverage mycelium like a glue to make our packaging solutions. So we use mycelium to bind together agricultural waste. Right now, we're focused primarily on using hemp hurd as the main ingredient, with again mycelium serving as the glue. So mycelium is not the fruiting body of a mushroom that you typically see. It is not spores. It is not an allergen. It's again the root structure of a mushroom that is underneath your feet, just like you mentioned, Bree.
Yeah, and then can you tell everyone what a hemp hurd is also?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So we use industrial fiber hemp, the waste from the hemp, to make our material. So we've worked with a number of different feedstocks over the years, or raw material inputs, actually around 500 to 700 different raw material inputs. Again, the hemp hurd is the waste from the fiber hemp plant, so it's typically not a part of the plant that goes into use. So it's really important to us that we are not disrupting food supply when we're making mushroom packaging. Again, we're also not using the fruiting body of a mushroom, we're using the root structure. So that whole product comes together. Piece of mushroom packaging is made from, again, agricultural waste and the root structure of mushrooms.
That's so amazing. And then I guess while we're just on the topic of the packaging in general and how it's crafted, like how strong is it? Like when you create this and you're binding it together with mycelium, how strong is the packaging? Like, is it waterproof? Like, what are the features and like what makes it like the best packaging we could be making?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's best to think of mushroom packaging as a replacement for styrofoam. We typically don't design in a one-to-one manner with styrofoam, so our packaging solution is a little bit different. We're looking at right-sizing the packaging solution based on our design constraints and the strength of the material. As you can see, when I press on a piece of mushroom packaging, it's not going to indent. But it's really important that it's a lightweight piece of material too, to serve as appropriately as a packaging solution. So we really look to find that balance where, again, there's strength in the material. You're not going to crumble it as you press on it. But also we don't want it to be so dense that it's like a brick. So that comes back to even the raw material inputs in our final product. If we use something that has a finer material than the hemp particles that you'll see somewhat here on the bottom, if we go too fine with that material, then we get a denser product and a heavier product, and then it becomes more brick-like. So we work really hard to find that balance, and we have specs that we work to meet to be able to deliver a lightweight and cost-effective and packaging solution.
It's so incredible. And I feel like obviously we're talking about like the end product of many years of creation and testing and trials. And I kind of want to take a step back now and like talk about
Sure.
the history of mushroom packaging. Like, where did the idea come from for this company? And like, who are the founders? Like, tell us a little bit about the history.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to speak to that story. So Eben and Gavin are co-founders of Ecovative. The company was founded in 2007. While Eben and Gavin were students at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, they met in a class called Inventor's Studio at RPI. And the original idea was inspired by Eben's background growing up in Vermont and seeing mycelium underneath his feet. And when he was pushed to innovate, he thought about mycelium like a glue. And so that really spurred everything that Ecovative has become. I was fortunate enough to have the same mentor in college that Eben and Gavin did.
Oh my gosh,
Sort of,
amazing.
yeah, so sort of followed them through the program. They were like those star students that I never got to meet while I was a student. So I've actually known about Ecovative for over a decade now and been a fan of the company for a very long time. So Eben and Gavin have been, of course, tremendous to the growth of Ecovative and are still active, members of the team. Eben's our CEO, Gavin's our Chief Commercialization Officer, and they're incredible mentors to everyone who's currently at Ecovative.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool, especially that you went through like the same pathway as they did through school. Can you tell me a little bit more about, I guess, and maybe you don't know this, and that's okay if you don't, but whenever they're thinking about, being innovative and they're coming up with an idea, like what link was there for him to think about mycelium first? Like I feel like that's such a, especially at the time in like 2006 or even earlier, that would be the thing that someone thinks of to start to innovate off of, because that wasn't, quote unquote, potentially the trendy thing to think about. Like it is starting to become a very trendy topic now, but I mean, this was light years ahead of that. So
Yeah.
do you know, like, was he interested in like mushroom hunting and stuff as a kid, or like what interested him enough to say like I'm going to pay attention to what's underneath my feet? Because I don't feel like that's a normal, like the
Yeah.
immediate gut reaction for people.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And some days I wish I could plug myself right into Eben's head. Some of the things that I do know is that Eben grew up on a farm in Vermont, and so has always been creative and curious and observes the world around him. And the mentor in the classroom that Eben and Gavin were in Inventor's Studio, really push them to innovate, push them to do better, push them to not do nonsense. That was one of Professor Swerzi's key phrases, don't do nonsense. He said it all the time. And I believe a part of Eben's story is that he came up with a different idea for this classroom, and Bert told him that it was nonsense. And so he was pushed to do something else, and then grew the first sample of what became mushroom packaging, so an early sample of Ecovative's mycocomposite material, and showed it to Professor Swerzi, and that's when Bert said, you have something here. So Eben was really pushed to his limit, I believe, based on the story that I have heard, to come up with something new and unique, and that really ended up pioneering this space of mycelium and mycelium composites, and using mycelium as as a material and looking at it for its material properties. And of course, Gavin was a tremendous part of that story as well, as the two of them paired up and turned it into a product. And the early days of Ecovative were all focused on our mycocomposite material and delivering it as a packaging solution.
That's fascinating to me. Were they originally, like, were they paired up together, or did one of them kind of present what they were thinking they wanted to do, and then they were like, hey, I think we should work on this together? Like, how did that, I guess this dynamic duo come to be?
Yeah, the version of the story that I've heard there is that Professor Swersey, who I've mentioned a number of times, the shared mentor that we had, sort of encouraged them to work together. I think that's probably a story better for Eben and Gavin to tell, and I'd love to hear exactly how that went. I do know that they had so much support from Bert Swersey in the early days that he sort of forced them to do this class again, but called it something different so they could still get credit. So many cool stories that from the days that I wasn't involved in, but I agree that they are very much a dynamic duo and pioneered this space.
Basically, their professor was like the business matchmaker, and it worked out very well in their situation, which is just really cool to hear. Like, look at what a successful company they've built together after a professor saying, hey, I see this in you, and I think that you should work together to create something amazing and something that no one's ever seen before. I'm amazed by that. And I would love to know, so you've brought in the name Ecovative a few times, so I would love for you just to talk to us a little bit more about what Ecovative is as a company. And obviously you've said like that was their original kind of entity that they brought to life, so how mushroom packaging fits into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ecovative has adopted a Mycelium foundry model. So we are really working on many different applications for Mycelium as an ingredient, as a material. We have our food platform, we have our leather platform, and then in my space we have what I refer to as mycocomposite. So the Mycelium plus another material, hemp hurd, as I mentioned, is what we're currently focused on. So Ecovative is focused on developing and continue to pioneer a variety of different technologies and, of course, applications for those technologies through all of our different platforms. And mushroom packaging, where my current focus is within our really mycocomposites division. So packaging is our primary focus at the moment as we continue to grow that division of our business. But there's many different applications for the mycocomposite material, which is really interesting and exciting as we share the grow it yourself kits that we offer with folks. They're an inexpensive kit to hydrate it and grow a product out of it. We are learning new applications for our material every day.
Yeah, okay. So since we're on this topic right now, I just want to even touch base a little further on the grow it yourself kits. Like, what does that look like? Where can people find them? Can like a normal everyday person like me find them? Or is it more
Absolutely.
like a brand or an organization is getting these kits and kind of like using them to create their own products? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, you can purchase the kits right on grow.bio. So those kits are provided directly by Ecovative and our mycocomposite team, in close partnership with our marketing team as we work hard to get our material into the hands of more people. So grow.bio, also grown.bio for shipments outside of the US. So that's easy to access, and we really want it to be easy to access to allow people to grow different applications and potentially even low volumes of packaging solutions too. So the nice thing about that is for a small startup, for example, who wants a home compostable packaging solution to offer with their product, they could use our grow it yourself kits and grow their own packaging, which is really neat because it could allow them to to grow their packaging on demand and not need to keep an inventory of that part. And as a business grows, then it could be a nice transition and fit into our full scale business. We typically target 5,000 units annually as a minimum for new clients. We really look to get a recurring nature in our production schedule and our growth schedule. So we like to space a client's need out over the course of the year, and we do deliver based on rate of need, but we really look to again hit that minimum of 5,000 units, just so we can consistently keep a part on our production schedule.
Yeah. I would love to just hear what is inside one of these grow kits. So are there different kinds of mycelium that you're using for different reasons, or what kind of materials are people receiving when they get these grow kits?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So the grow kits are the same raw material blend that we use for our packaging solution. So what we do is we deliver these kits in a dehydrated manner, so it makes them easier to ship and less expensive to ship, and it extends the shelf life. So when we are making our packaging materials, we take this blend of the hemp hurd and mycelium. When we start the process, it just looks like a pile of wood chips. It's kind of wet, hydrated wood chips. But it's hemp hurd. That's how people can best relate to what it looks like. Again, sometimes refer to it as a wood chip there. But we deliver it dehydrated, so a GIY user can hydrate the material and then begin growing a finished product with it. So it's the same process essentially as what we're using for our packaging solution, except for the fact that as we're producing new raw materials, we hydrate it in the process. So we kind of start with that hydrated base and then allow a client who buys a grow it yourself kit to hydrate themselves, kind of bring it back to life essentially. The mycelium is sort of dormant until it's hydrated and is given some nutrition and comes back to life. So we actually, what I mentioned there with nutrition, we share that some flour should be added because the mycelium literally is alive. That's how it begins growing. And then at the end of the process, after growing different shapes with the GIY kits, it does need to go into the oven to dry it out and inactivate the mycelium. So for our packaging solution, for example, we get many questions about, will it grow a mushroom? And typically in the packaging space, it's a good thing that our answer is no, because it is inert, it isn't inactivated. Just like a pallet of wood, for example, it won't regrow a tree, right? So it's kind of silly, but it's a really helpful way to understand that at the end of the process, the mycelium is done growing, it is inactive, it will not grow a mushroom at that point.
That's such an interesting but also very valid question to ask. And then,
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and then and I wonder, you may not know this either, but are there different kinds of mycelium that you use, or is it just like one base mycelium? That might be something that I'm not wording very well, but in my brain I'm like, oh, there are like all these different kinds of mushroom strains, different kinds of species. So I would assume that the mycelium would be the same, and that maybe potentially some were better for binding or using than others. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, and you used all the right terms. We typically refer to it as different strains. For our mushroom packaging solution, our mycocomposite material, we're really focused on using the strain that we've honed in on. There's a couple of things that are really important about the strain that we use. It's that it's making a tough and tenacious packaging solution, and binding those particles together and holding them together. It's also important that that it grows in a commercially viable time frame. So the mycelium strain that we use grows very quickly. We typically grow parts in a tool, so we create custom molded shapes for our packaging solution. We grow in a tool for 4 days, so it goes from looking like a pile of wood chips to being bound together and holding together when it's popped out of a mold, to popping it out and having 2 more days of growth where we get that soft white overcoat, which is all mycelium. So very important that it can grow in a commercially viable time frame, right? If it took us 30 days to grow a piece of packaging, then packaging likely wouldn't be the right application for a solution. So it really allows us to be cost competitive. Now, the different strains that Ecovative uses for our different applications, adapt to the different use cases. So when you're eating a food product, you don't want that to be tough and tenacious, right? So working with gourmet strains of mushrooms, for example, so that's what the other teams at Ecovative are focusing on, really tuning the appropriate choice of strain to what the use case is, what the application is.
Yeah, and I think for that, I really was just trying to hone in and nail down for everyone listening that there are so many different ways that mushrooms and mycelium can be utilized, and that we've barely started to scratch the surface. I feel like it's mind blowing to me when I was reading the book, even of just what people are creating with mycelium and with mushrooms. Like, so obviously, in case in point, we're creating packaging to replace plastics and styrofoam. We're creating different leathers. We're creating substitute meats. Like, there are so many things. Clothing. It's just mind blowing. So if you don't know about this yet, this is a very fascinating topic, and you should all go listen to or read something about powerhouses that are mushrooms. And I would love to know if you have any, anecdotal stories or what the craziest things people are making, and like the most fascinating things you've seen people make with your grow it yourself kits.
Yeah, so we did have a recent client asking us about getting the product out to them as quickly as possible because he was looking to grow his girlfriend a cat bed for her birthday. So we get lots of inquiries that give us a chuckle, but we love it. We love seeing different applications that people are using our material for. We've had a number of people grow different sculptures and just a wide variety of geometries and shapes using either objects that they already have in their house, a bucket from your sandbox, right? Or actually creating custom molding themselves. So quite a wide range of how beautiful, I guess, the finished product looks based on experience level and who's using it. But we really love to get the grow it yourself kits in the hands of anyone from kindergartners in a classroom in a workshop setting, all the way to a professional designer looking to create a custom lampshade. So we do have a partnership with Danielle Trophy in Brooklyn, who's growing her own lampshades out of our material and has been for many years, and they're absolutely beautiful. So quite a wide variety of applications for our grow it yourself kits.
Yeah, it's like the limit does not exist. You could make anything that you could possibly dream up with it, which is just mind blowing to me. And I feel like it's like a hidden secret still to so many people that this is even an option, that this is happening. So I love getting to hear about this and just the innovation of it all. It's so inspiring, and it gives me a lot of hope about what we can do to like lessen our footprint and help the environment just through these like really incredible small tiny impactful plants, and all of the roots and the mycelium that's underneath our feet. Like, we should be utilizing it so much more. So it's just paving the way for us to do that. And I think along those lines too, one of the biggest questions that I have, and even whenever I received it myself, was how much waste this must be preventing whenever people are switching over to utilizing mushroom packaging instead of utilizing a different form of, styrofoam or plastics or anything like that. So I would love for you to talk on how much waste is prevented when people are choosing to use mushroom packaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of answers that I have to that question. Number one is that last year we produced over 2 million parts of mushroom packaging with between our network of licensees. That number is dramatically increasing this year, especially as we are investing in a brand new facility ourselves. I'm sitting in that facility now, and we're expanding rapidly in the Albany, New York area, so really servicing heavily North America and the East Coast. But the other thing that I'd add there is just thinking about the custom design process that we go through for our packaging solution. So there's sort of two different key types of custom design processes we go through. One may be a brand new e-commerce beauty brand, for example, who wants to integrate our packaging as a part of their story, as a part of their brand and their messaging and their sustainability commitment, which is fantastic, right? So we're designing our packaging to be a part of that, part of that brand, and from the very beginning. So we're not replacing an existing packaging solution. We are preventing a non-compostable packaging solution from entering the market. One client that comes to mind for me, who's done just an incredible job of building our mushroom packaging into their brand, is Shrine. They're a candle company based in LA, and we've designed a beautiful art-shaped packaging solution for them. And I've seen comments on their Instagram where people will ask them if they could buy that art-shaped packaging. And it's like, no, you got to buy the candle and you'll get it with it. So they've done just such a great job of almost making the packaging feel like a product itself. Then, of course, the other side is replacing packaging solutions that are not sustainable at all. So foam in place solutions, fabricated foams, and any different type of plastic or foam solution. When a client comes to us looking to commit to sustainability, looking for a solution that will protect their product and be truly compostable, we are, of course, in a scenario where we're preventing more of those other poor alternatives from ending up in a landfill. So our mushroom packaging is fully home compostable, which is a really important point because many packaging solutions that are compostable. So the neat thing about any creation that you grow with a grow it yourself kit of our material or our packaging solution is that because it is home compostable, it means it will return nutrients to the earth, and you can watch it break down slowly over time. So a piece of packaging, for example, if you throw it outside your front door, you will watch it break down again slowly over time. Or if you break it into small pieces, it'll return to the earth a bit more quickly. So the analogy I typically like to use here is that some mulch or wood chips, for example, will break down or biodegrade more quickly than a log or a stick in your garden, for example. All about surface area.
Yeah, I love that. It's what I was just talking about at the beginning too. Whenever I got the packaging, it's now like in the mulch of my plants, my house plants, and so I've been getting to watch it kind of like slowly change shape and form over months now. And it's like one of my favorite things to do is just to see the process happening in real time. And being able to kind of, it makes me feel like a little scientist, I guess, where I get to like observe and examine and say, oh, like what's happening now? And it's like giving nutrients to my plants. This is so cool. And I'm curious too of just how long can people keep the packaging? How long does it take for it to break down? Like anything like that for someone who's never heard of this before.
Yeah, absolutely. So our material is fully shelf stable for up to 30 years. Now, our technology has not been around for 30 years, but we've done accelerated aging tests on that. So if I have a piece of packaging on my desk, for example, it will not begin to break down just because it's sitting on my desk. The key thing to make the packaging or grow it yourself kit, the product that you've made yourself, the key thing to make it break down is exposure to nutrients, or sorry, I apologize, exposure to microbes in the soil to begin breaking that down. Our technology, the Mycelium, is naturally hydrophobic, so it repels water. So if I were to pour water from my water bottle into this piece of packaging, it will bead up and sit on the packaging. Now, if it's fully submerged in water, it will take on that water and eventually will start to break down. So it's not waterproof, but it is hydrophobic. So if I were to, the packaging would start to lose its shape and structure if the water were just to sit into it, because eventually it would soak in. But in terms of time frames, so our material is fully home compostable in 45 days. We typically recommend breaking it up into small parts. So again, that surface area, increasing that surface area and putting it in the soil. Now, if you live in a city, it could mean putting it in a park or around a tree along the sidewalk, because it truly is a nutrient. And it is marine compostable in 180 days, which is fabulous because it also means that if it ends up in a waterway, it still is a nutrient to the planet instead of anything harmful.
That's incredible. I feel like everyone should be using this, and every business should be switching over to this. So if you're listening and you're a company or a brand, you should reach out immediately and make some changes, because I feel like the amount of good, the amount of, waste that you are replacing by using something like this is just so massive. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to do this. Or get your own grow it yourself kit. I feel like it just provides so much accessibility to creating things like this, even on your own. And I'm curious too of, we're still in the midst of a pandemic. We've seen a lot of people getting curious about things at home, doing a lot of research. Obviously, we saw a lot of shopping online instead of going into stores. So, what did that look like for mushroom packaging?
Oh, we've seen tremendous growth over the last couple of years with mushroom packaging. So I've had the fortunate opportunity to be on the team as we've seen just continued growing and growing interest. As we bring on new clients, we have to get really good about finding the right fit opportunities that we know our solution is a very good fit for what the client's needs are. We do have constraints on the wall thickness, for example, depending on the depth of a cavity, and there's many things I could go into, but we've had to get really good at saying yes to the right fit opportunities and no to the ones that just aren't a fit for our growing business right now, for our packaging business at scale. Because demand has just been so tremendous. But that's where our grow it yourself kit options come in really well, right? As I mentioned earlier, those smaller brands, brand new brands who want to grow their packaging on their own, they truly can with the grow it yourself kits. And with folks at home looking for more to do, that our grow it yourself business has been strong as well. So I've had the fortunate opportunity of watching just the increased demand for mushroom packaging. I think there's, of course, the component of the pandemic and people shopping more online, but there's also this timing thing where we've hit this sweet spot where more and more clients are getting educated, or consumers rather are getting educated on the impacts of every decision that they make, from the products they buy in a grocery store to the products they buy online. And there's a consumer demand that's starting to happen that is really exciting to be a part of. And even being in the packaging industry and seeing some leaders within the packaging industry, packaging businesses converting some of the products that they offer to match what clients are demanding. So there's a timing element that has been really exciting to be a part of that wasn't here in 2007 when Eben and Gavin were knocking on doors to find their first clients, right? So I am aware of how fortunate, again, I am to have been a part of the team at this timing where there's just this rapid acceleration, and where we have to say no to many clients. But again, that's where our grow it yourself business comes in. Because we can really offer an alternative solution for smaller volume opportunities, or to try it themselves.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And I'm curious too of, during the pandemic, when you're saying, we got a lot more interest, like what does that interest look like? Is it like founders and CEOs that are coming to you because they're getting demand from their consumers that are saying, hey, we demand that you do more and do better for the environment? Or is it, them getting curious and saying, hey, now I have all this time to think about, how I can switch my business and do something that's going to be less, less of a footprint? Or like, what does that interest look like? Like, what kinds of inquiries are you receiving?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been quite a wide range. So from a new brand looking to establish their business as a sustainable business and speak to clients' needs, all the way to well-established businesses that are looking to convert their packaging solutions. So one of the key clients that we've worked with over the past couple of years has a sustainability mission to, by 2025, convert all of their existing plastic packaging over to compostable and sustainable solutions. So many of the inquiries that we're getting, well, quite a handful of them are just that early interest, wondering what it is, wanting to learn more. So many of them are really looking to implement something now. We have inquiries where folks are saying mushroom packaging is the only solution that I want. So that's been a really neat spot to sit in as well, especially with with new brands designing packaging for the first time, we kind of have an open book to get started to offer, of course, a really fabulous protective packaging solution, but also really a beautiful design and presentation of the product. So that actually is a bit of a range too with the types of clients we work with, where some of them are really looking at it for the presentation aspect. There was a lip balm that went in here, so it didn't really need the protective nature that a heavy piece of electronics will. But so there's a really neat element of that unboxing experience that we can deliver as well. So we've got, again, a tremendous amount of interest just to learn more and demand to learn more, and that's where Grow It Yourself comes in, because we can just say, here, take the material, create things with it, and try things with it, and grow things yourself. And then you really get to know the material. All the way to, of course, opportunities that are just like, I need mushroom packaging, that's what I need now, to organizations saying, we have a sustainability mission and we have not found a packaging solution that meets our needs. So heavy products, for example, while molded pulp can be a good solution for certain packaging opportunities, it's not often great for heavy products. So we're really able to serve a need for meeting compostable packaging, sustainable packaging for clients, while also better protecting their product than other alternatives on the market.
Yeah, I feel like once you start to learn about this, it's like it's a no-brainer. It's like, why would we not go this direction? Why would we not want to use something that is literally a living and breathing, like, the source, and we can put it right back to where it was. Like, it's going to go back and it's going to nurture everything around me. Like, in my mind, it's like that's just a light bulb that goes off. Like, of course I'm going to do that. That's an incredible option. And I know that you can mold it to like so many different products. And, is there anything that you can't like work with right now, like material wise? Is there anything that you're like, yeah, we just aren't there yet, but we're working on it?
Yeah, so with our packaging solution, we work really hard to keep all of our designs within a specific constraint. So 18 inches by 18 inches by 5 inches in depth really fits best within our tooling paradigm. So that's typically the maximum size we grow within packaging. But we do have a licensee, for example, growing human coffins. So they are using a very different process for growing. It's the same material base, but their molds are much larger, and so they are delivering living coffins from the Mycelium. So I guess the other thing I would say is with the Grow It Yourself materials, there's opportunity to mix in other things. So in all the experimentation that we've done over the years to hone in on our best packaging material blend, we've tried things from corn husks to hair to feathers to ripped up jeans. So we don't do that in our packaging solution right now, but with folks who grab a Grow It Yourself kit, they can use that as a base material where the mycelium binds all the particles together, but other substrates, if you will, can be mixed in to that base. So that is where we draw the line a bit with our packaging solutions, really looking to focus on using the existing technology and the existing blend that we've honed in on and focused on the custom design element. Whereas the Grow It Yourself kits, the door starts to open to trying all these other cool things. And then, of course, as we build globally with our licensees, we're, again, heavily focused on packaging, but do have the licensee growing human coffins, for example. Yeah. So the limits really are endless.
Yeah. And even I love that you found the ability to say, well, this is like our constraints, but here's this other option, so that you can like play around and like innovate the way that you want and create something that you think would be a really amazing fit, and then it just leaves it up to the consumer or the creator to imagine and create something on their own. I feel like it's more of a tactile relationship too, where it's like you're not just receiving the packaging that's been created for you. Now you're touching and feeling and mapping out whatever it is yourself, which is really cool. I wondered if you would be able to tell me a little bit about the mushroom tiny home and the biodegradable drone that has been created with, I'm guessing this is with the myocomposite, is that right?
So our microcomposite material is, yeah, so I'm actually not familiar with the drone project. There are just so many different projects out there which are just tremendous. I'm, very, very focused on the packaging applications. But the tiny home was developed right at Ecovative, I believe, as a part of a competition at one point, and focused on the insulation aspect of the tiny home. So insulation, building construction materials are not currently a focus for our team, but are something that we plan to expand to in the future. So think of, these small shapes but grown at huge scale to be able to deliver acoustic panels and insulation and building construction materials. So that is all under our mycocomposite technology. So the composite nature being the mycelium plus the hemp hurd or another input. So wood chips, for example, or something else to adapt to what the solution is, or what the application is intended to be. So the tiny home is an example of an application in really insulation and building material space. So I was not on the team, unfortunately, when it was grown, but it still sits right out in front of Ecovative's headquarters. So we still have
Is
it
it
right on
big
site.
or is it small?
It is small.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
small little, yeah.
I feel like that's an amazing, it's just really cool to see the projects that are underway with Ecovative and kind of just like the advanced testing and projecting of like, well, we want to see how this would work with mycelium. Like, how does this collaborate together? Like, could we go into this space? Like, what else could we be creating that would take away, impact and the footprint that we're doing with other materials? And I would even assume, like, when it comes to insulation, that could potentially be something that would be valuable for packaging and being able to like do insulated packaging at some point. So I love to see all of the different like tests that you guys are doing and just like thinking outside of the box or outside of the packaging, I guess, if you will. But I feel like it's just such a real, it's like seeing the minds of people that are thinking in the future. It's very
Hmm.
inspiring to see it. And I was very intrigued by the tiny house when I saw that that was a project that you guys had done.
Yeah, that's cool. And what, just to speak to the insulation, like you mentioned with packaging, so our packaging is also naturally, it has insulative properties. So we grow molded coolers. So cooler replacements for shipment. So get rid of those big clunky styrofoam coolers, and you can replace it with the mushroom packaging cooler. So that's the scale of insulation that we're really focused on now. It's actually great for cold chain shipments, because the other thing is typically with the cold chain shipment, you need to include an ice pack or something like that, which is important to consider in terms of the sweating and how that ice pack melts during shipment. You can't use a paper solution that's going to break down when it gets wet. So the mushroom packaging can hold a ice pack, for example, that starts to sweat a little bit during shipment because of the hydrophobic nature of the material. So that's really the application that we're focused on right now, harnessing the insulative nature of our material. We do have some clients who they're packaging their product right in mushroom packaging and then putting it in the freezer because it's a food product. So we're not FDA certified for direct food contact, but think of something like a power protein bar type of thing going in the mushroom packaging. It can be frozen before shipment too to help keep it cold. So that's really what we're focused on in that area now. But yeah, so many
So
different
cool.
applications as we've talked
Yes.
about.
Yes, and I think that's something that a lot of listeners will be amazed at too, is just yeah, just like truly the diversity of how you can utilize mycelium and like what can be grown, how it can carry things. Like it truly feels like the options are like there is no glass ceiling, like there is skies are truly the limits. Like if you can think of it, you can create it or it can be done with this product, which is incredible to me. Um, and I'm even more curious to have you talk about the fact that Mushroom Packaging is operating the largest mycelium farm in the world. And I saw that and I said, okay, I have to know the scale of this farm and like how big it is and like what you're growing. Is it truly the farm that's like producing and creating everything you utilize for your packaging?
Yeah, so unfortunately, some of that question I can't fully speak to
Okay.
because we're looking at Ecovative overall with our farm, and my everything we're growing with mycelium. But what I can speak to is all the different components that we pull together to create
Mhm.
a finished product with the mycocomposite material. So we produce our raw materials on site, which we requires the agricultural waste, for example, for the mushroom packaging process, and it needs to be what we call inoculated with mycelium. The mycelium
Okay.
needs to be mixed essentially with the hemp, and it needs to be pasteurized. So we do that on site. So that's sort of a part of our process. And then we grow for mushroom packaging, we grow on vertical racks. So we have our molds as trays that go on those racks. And we have dozens and dozens of racks as we're growing these parts. So in that sense, it's a bit like a vertical farm, if you will, from the mushroom
Yeah.
packaging perspective. Our new facility is about 19,000 square feet.
Wow.
So we plan to, quickly accelerate the number of packaging pieces we can offer to clients. But Ecovative's mycelium capabilities overall are phenomenal, and
Yeah.
definitely encourage your listeners to take a quick Google search on the My Forest Foods, which is Ecovative's spin-out company focused on our food product. And there you'll see some really cool photos that'll give you a sense of scale of some of the growth chambers for that side of the business. And you'll see the perspective. I think the best way to answer that question is to find the photo where you see one of our research and development operators standing by the door of one of the huge growth chambers, one of many that exist over here. So we've really built out the space here at Ecovative in Green Island, New York, continuing to expand our operations here quite rapidly.
Oh, I can imagine. I feel like I want to come and just get a personal tour. I just need to
You're
see it in
certainly welcome.
person. I'm like fangirling over it. It's such a cool, yeah, just like what an amazing company to work for. And you're doing something so incredible for the environment too as you're doing it. So I imagine that you feel very similarly to me with like working for Keep Nature Wild, is that it's just like so fulfilling and you feel so good to be able to work somewhere where you are proud to share about the
Yeah.
product that you're promoting and like what you guys are doing on site.
Yeah.
Nothing feels more fulfilling than that, I feel like.
Oh yeah, you kind of hit like pulling you kind of hit my spot there where I really am so tremendously grateful to be a part of this team. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. After
Yeah.
I guess fangirled myself for so many years, just looking up to Evan and Gavin as such incredible leaders, watching Ecovative grow, kind of had my own path out of college and then found the right opportunity to join Ecovative. And then sure enough, somehow found my way to the mushroom packaging team, which was how I originally knew Ecovative.
Mm.
Knew of Ecovative through the packaging technology, and now we've expanded into so many different capabilities with Mycelium. But it feels like it's exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that it's a really amazing feeling because then on top of that, it really is an organization all about doing good and bringing
Yeah.
positivity to the planet and leveraging nature as a technology. And so that really feels phenomenal and comes right back to the story that I shared early on about don't do nonsense, and
Yes.
that mutual professor who inspired Eben and Gavin and a few years later inspired me. And I feel like I've listened to that mission. So, and the
Mm.
entire organization here does as well.
I love that. I have a few wrap up questions for you
Sure.
before I let you go. The first being, in your personal opinion, how can mycelium and mushrooms change the world? Like, what does that look like to you? It's a big question.
It is a big question. It's a really big question, and I'm just so biased because I think about our packaging solution all the time. Mycelium can keep a tremendous volume of packaging, non-compostable packaging materials out of landfills. Mycelium can serve as a material, it can serve as an ingredient, and at the end of its useful life, it can, again, return nutrients to the earth. I think it's really important to think about the full life cycle of anything that you're using. And while many solutions for packaging, again, are compostable and it's fabulous, it's also important to think about those raw material inputs that went into the product and what impacts it has to harvest sugarcane, for example, and different things that are biodegradable. For us, we're really focused on continuing to grow with mycelium and use agricultural waste, which is, just it contributes so strongly to the sustainability nature of the material. I guess I'm kind of going on a tangent there, but the packaging piece is where my home is at Ecovative, and that's what I can speak to so strongly. So I'm focused on just diverting such a huge volume of plastic and foam solutions from landfills, and thinking about the life cycle analysis of a packaging solution and returning nutrients to the earth. So that's just again the tip of the iceberg of what mycelium can do, but what a tremendous way that it can impact the planet for the better. I guess to maybe better and more profoundly answer your question, think kind of channeling this mentor that I keep referring to, Bert Swersey. He talked about making life better for 1 billion people. And he said, what a great mission you could have in your life if you could make life better for 1 billion people. And so you can see, I get very emotional when I even share that. But with all of Ecovative's different platforms and technologies, we're working to make life better for 1 billion people and beyond. And we're going to touch so many different people through packaging, through food, through leather, and make sure we keep the planet clean and better for future generations.
You just said that beautifully. Oh my gosh. I have like full body chills, and that's not even a joke. Like, that was so beautifully said, and I feel like I just felt your passion for what you do, which is incredible. Yeah, I feel like we should all have something in our lives that we feel this strongly about, especially whenever it's helping the planet and the environment. I want to just almost leave it there. So I want to ask, like, where can people find you on social media? Where can people find more about mushroom packaging?
Yeah, so mushroompackaging.com, Mushroom Packaging on Instagram, on all forms of social media. Mushroom Packaging is a great place to find us, but we talked a lot about the Grow Bio business today. So that's grow.bio for the website. Same with the Instagram. And then, of course, ecovative.com will get you to mushroom packaging, to learning more about leather, about food, and to all of our different socials. So ecovative.com, if nothing else is remembered, is a great place to start. But mushroompackaging.com will also lead you to discover what brands are using our packaging. So supporting those brands is a really great way for your listeners to get a piece of mushroom packaging in their hands. Don't ask us for a sample. You can certainly ask us for a sample, but go buy a product and see how it's delivered to you and get a sense for that unboxing experience and the excitement that you feel for making a conscious decision to buy a product that offers a really cool and beautiful packaging solution that will return some nutrients to your garden.
Love it. And then my last wrap-up question for you before I let you go, because I know you have a hard stop, is what does keeping nature wild mean to you?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Of course, it makes a lot of sense to wrap up on that. So keeping nature wild to me means working in partnership with nature. And as I think about that in the work that we do at Ecovative, it means leveraging nature as a technology, but not disrupting nature in the process.
Yeah.
I think I could talk about that more, but I'll leave it at that.
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much for sharing time with me, for dealing with some sound issues and everything else. But thank you so much for just allowing some time for me to geek out about mushroom packaging with you and hopefully introduce so many people to just how diverse, how strong, how amazing mycelium really is, and that we should be utilizing it for literally everything. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and I hope you all go check out mushroom packaging right after this. Like Megan said, please go buy a product, touch it, feel it, try it out, experience it. It is the way of the future. I was so thrilled when I got to experience it and was hooked from that moment on. So, again, thank you so much for coming and sharing time with me. This was an absolute pleasure.
You're so welcome. I really appreciate your time as well.
Yes, you too. Okay, have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you. You as well.